Alright, what's going on everybody? Welcome back to another video here on the channel, and today we're going to be taking a look at what might just be the cringiest and worst Reddit admission of all time. This is the kind of information that you could not even get me to spill, I guess, in the context of anonymity on the internet, right? Like, that's kind of the point, I guess, of like a Reddit account or whatever in this instance, is that at least when you're telling this kind of story, it's anonymous, right? People don't know it's you. It's not like it's your full legal name on the account, right? You get to hide behind that username and tell everybody a very unfortunate story, like in this situation here. But even with that, man, like, I wouldn't want to tell people that this happened to me, so I honestly don't even really know how to describe this one to you guys, right? Like, I don't know if there's any sort of context I can give you that makes this any more understandable than what it already is, right? Like, it's so confusing, and everything about it is just super weird. It's probably a troll, if we're being honest. At least that's what I hope. That's how I should clarify that. I hope that this is a troll, because if this is a real story, man, let's just say it's a very evil world in that case, right? So honestly, man, I'm probably just gonna show you guys the entirety of this story all at once, right? So we can just clear everything up from there. This is a pretty long story too, so I don't want to break it up over all these different parts, because that's gonna stretch the video out even further doing that. So let's go ahead and take a look at this story. My 40-year-old female parents, dad's 63 male and mom's 60 female, have been married for 43 years. I have 6 siblings, 42-year-old female, 38-year-old female, 34-year-old female, 20-year-old male, 20-year-old male, 18-year-old male. I have been with my husband, who's a 39-year-old male, since we were 15. I got pregnant at 17 and we moved in with my parents. I gave birth to my now 22-year-old daughter. We got married at 18 shortly after. My dad's father passed shortly after our wedding and left his ranch-style house to my father. My grandparents built a house next door to my parents when they retired. My parents decided to let us live in this house and told us this would be my inheritance. My husband and I had no issues with this. We went on to have a 20-year-old son, a 14-year-old daughter, and a 5-year-old daughter, and I'm currently 7 months pregnant with my last child, a boy, due in April. I thought I had a good marriage. We were intimate more than twice a week. We went on date nights. We bought each other gifts. We didn't fight. My entire world was shattered, though, on New Year's Eve. When I returned early from a girls' trip I had taken with some friends, I walked into my bedroom to find my mom on top of my husband. My mother screamed at me to get out of their bedroom, which really shook me up even more. Unfortunately, my oldest daughter was also home in her bedroom, across the house getting ready for a party. She ran out and witnessed all but a bedsheet naked mother run out of our house next door to her house and slam the door. My daughter was devastated and went to my sister's house. I asked her not to say anything until I first talked to my husband. I asked him for the truth. He told me that my mom seduced him when we were 18 and living in their house. They'd been having unprotected sex at least once a month for longer than we were married. I ran the math and was horrified, because the timeline meant my twin brothers and youngest brother could be my husband's. I immediately called my dad and told him to come to my house without my mom. I made my husband confess. My dad was devastated because he and my mom were high school sweethearts. Needless to say, we could hear my mother screaming from the house when he confronted her. I then told my other sister, older sister, and she and I decided to have her throw a party for the whole extended family. We invited my ex's family as well. At this party, I had my 22-year-old daughter take all the kids to our basement and put on a movie, leaving only the adult children and siblings, and I told them exactly what they'd been doing. Most of the family's on my side, except for my 3 youngest siblings, 38-year-old female sister, ex's entire family. They all say I'm an asshole for dropping this publicly. Word got out. My mom's best friends, whose leadership at my mom's church, called me to verify. My mom has been since let go as the children's pastor there, and she claims I'm essentially ruining her reputation in life. My dad kicked her out. Now she's living with my 38-year-old sister. And lastly, my dad insisted on a DNA test for the 3 youngest boys before he'd consider anything to do with their marriage. The twins are my husband's biological children. I've since kicked him out and he's living with his parents. My father and I are discussing me moving into the much larger house and him selling my grandfather's house and him giving me the money to buy a new place somewhere else to get rid of the memories. My husband's appalled and furious that I proved he's actually about to have 7 kids instead of 5, and that I'm going to be taking half of his business away from him. My husband started his own HVAC company a few years back, and for the first 5 years I helped him get it set up, ran the office completely, and took time away from my teaching career to help him get this established. In my state, all marital assets, including businesses, are split 50-50. Since the house was still in my father's name, my husband will get no money from the sale. Neither will my mother, since inherited assets are not subject to be split in divorces. My mother is also likely to not get any alimony, as our state is not a no-fault divorce state. Alright, so I'm actually going to split this story in half, right? Because there's 2 more pages to this, but honestly, so much happened in those first 2 pages right there to talk about that I feel like we do need to kind of split this up. So I have not read this in its entirety, simply so I can get get like my full reaction to it genuine. And as you can tell, this is an insane story. So you gotta imagine, right? Like, this is your apparently husband that you've been married to since you were like pretty young, right? And even then, like, you were with them when you were still basically like a teenager, right? So this is like a long-lasting relationship. The mom and dad of the girl or whatever are old, actually, like, you know, in their 60s type of thing. It's kind of insane to think that stories like this supposedly happen, right? I mean, this sounds like almost like a story you'd hear on the Hub, right? Like, this is like a storyline that you'd hear in like porn, bro. This doesn't sound like real life. But just to, I guess, take all this at face value for the sake of the video here, I honestly just can't imagine, bro. Like, what do you really do if you walk in basically on your husband in bed with someone else, right? Not even just that, though. It's not even just the fact that you're getting cheated on, but it's the fact that you're supposedly being cheated on with your mom. Okay, that is actually insane. Man, it's like a game of Pokemon, you know? You start off with the Charmander, and I guess sometimes you just want to level up to the Charizard, right? These things happen. This is off of r/true off my chest, which is supposed to be like some sort of admission-based thing on Reddit. So this has spilled over into a pretty ugly divorce where like a business is gonna get tore in half, and basically like a dozen or so people's lives are gonna get changed, right? We're talking about people's children now know about this, potentially witnessed these kinds of things, right? You got a marriage, actually 2 marriages that have basically split up at this point. Can you imagine being a 60-year-old man, right? Like, you're married to your high school sweetheart. Y'all been like really about this since you were like sophomores in high school. And you go your whole life with this person, and basically it turns out that they've been getting their back blown in by your son-in-law for the better part of like, I don't know, 20 years or something like that. Just imagine how that must feel. I know that that guy was struggling, right? So one thing I will say, I think it's kind of crazy to have a party and that be the way that you tell everybody this happened. Like, can you imagine you just pull up to the family party or whatever, like I don't know, they had like a chicken place, do some catering or something. You're in there bashing on this pizza or this food or whatever they got going on. You know, you're hanging out with everybody, having a good time. Someone just comes to the middle of the party, starts slamming, you know, just got that spoon on the wine glass. All right, everybody, I just want to let you know that the family's completely ruined, and basically my husband's been fucking my mom. Like, how do you tell everybody that? You know what I mean? How do you bring everyone together and just drop that kind of nuclear bomb on the family? That sounds like something you have to tell somebody with a very, very broken-hearted and confusing phone call or something like that. I will say, though, what I would pay to just be a fly on the wall of that room, right, when they're in there basically dropping all of this information on the family like that. I'm not over a month removed, still extremely bitter and angry at my mother, especially at her hypocrisy for calling me a whore and shaming my family when she's done much worse. I also despise my ex within everything within me now, as he was with both my mom and me in some instances, coming to our bed minutes later. He got my mother pregnant less than a week after getting me pregnant, and while I thought it was so cute and fun that I shared a pregnancy experience with my mom, she was carrying my children's half-siblings. He has broken all trust I had in men in being faithful. I already procured a good lawyer from the firm that helped us in financial matters for both me and my dad is helping pay for it. My twin brothers, one of my sisters, and my entire ex's family have gone without contact with me, and my minor children and my children have essentially lost all of their grandparents but my dad, 2 uncles, and an aunt on my side, and my husband's 3 brothers due to this mess. I've also developed ulcers and digestive issues because of this, so I'm visiting the doctor soon, and I've been in therapy since the first week of January. I've offered this for both of my adult children if they need family therapy with all of us, but they're doing individual therapy right now. My 14-year-old knows that we're getting divorced and why she's so angry at her dad that I struggle sending her to his house on the weekends. I feel like she's old enough to make a decision on that, but I don't want to damage her relationship with her dad. I've told all my kids it's okay to love their dad even if he hurt me, but the oldest 2 have cut him off 100%. I won't tell my youngest 2 until they're teens why we got divorced, and everyone else has agreed to not spill anything until they're old enough to understand. As for how I had no idea this affair was ongoing, my husband confirmed to me that they would have this at my mom's office at church, in their cars, at a motel, and when we built this business, they started having it routinely in his office once I went back to teaching. They also had it in our houses too when my father would go away on business trips or I'd be out of town. It was pure happenstance that I came home a day early from this entire trip because I was uncomfortable from being nearly 7 months pregnant and just wanted my own bed for me to find out, knowing that they'd be carrying this full-blown affair still if I hadn't caught them is what I'm still actually upset about. The fact that the grandmother and father of my children cared so little about destroying our families is what I can't get past. What's hardest for me is that my own mother would do this to me and would continue to do this for years and not caring when it all blew up in her face that she'd be destroying her entire family. Too long, didn't read. My mom fucked my husband for 22 years. I'm sorry, that's just a really direct way of saying it. Got them pregnant with twins, continued continued the affair until I caught them in bed together on New Year's Eve when I was nearly 7 months pregnant. I publicly exposed it. My mom lost her job, her marriage, and is homeless. I mean, that's kind of what happens, you know? Like, don't be unfaithful to the person you've been with for so long, right? That kind of thing is exactly what happens. Now, the craziest part of this story, potentially, isn't even the fact that all this happened, because if we're being real, these types of affairs probably happen more than we're all willing to admit, right? Like, these kinds of things probably happen a lot more than people want to say it does. But the fact that this guy actually is the father, basically, of his wife's siblings is fucking nuts, right? Like, can you imagine if, like, you're pregnant and it turns out your husband got your mom pregnant at the same time, right? I don't even know how you react. Like, they probably handled this situation way better than I would have. Like, I feel like this would have just been, that'd have been enough, bro. I don't know how you even manage that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what level of therapy you can go through that fixes that kind of problem, right? I mean, it's completely insane. I mean, if this story is true, which, I mean, there's a pretty good chance that it's fake because it's just the internet, and even if it is supposed to be like a true confession kind of thing, it doesn't 100% mean it's real, but I mean, this is the kind of story, these kinds of things really do happen. And not only do they happen somewhat often, you know? It's kind of insane, though, that this family basically got turned into like Sweet Home Alabama kind of thing, simply because, you know, two people couldn't keep it in their relationship. I mean, how do you look at like your siblings the same if that happens, right? Like, it's not even necessarily their fault that this all happened because they were born from a situation they had no control over, but it's like, that's such a major like bomb of information dropped on your head. I don't know how you even come back from that kind of thing, right? So I don't know, man. But with that being said, thank you guys for watching. If you did enjoy, make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're brand new around here on the channel, follow me over on Twitter and Twitch at @SubToOptimus. Make sure to check out Shop Opti down below, and until my next video, guys, this is Optimus, well, reading potentially the cringiest little Reddit post of all time, and signing out.